in traffic. Very smart move by Team Penske.
Maybe the hottest driver on the IndyCar circuit right now. This is Dan Wheldon, started 16th up to 5th place in the 26 car, part of the Andretti Green team. And this guy lives the rock star life, but he is smooth.
He is, through the first turn and downshifts in the short chute to get the car coming off the turn, coming off turn 2, going down that long 5/8 mile straightaway we talked about. Back up using his right hand, getting the gear, keeping the engine in the power band. 10,300 RPM is the maximum. Back down, going in through turn 3 now. And traffic will slow him down just a little bit. Catches another gear because he's getting slow because of the traffic. Hopefully the guy sees him, but he slides right underneath. Listen to the engine now. Down on speed, down on RPM.
The 26 car of the 26-year-old Dan Wheldon, originally from Emberton, England, now living in St. Petersburg, Florida. He is the hottest driver right now on the IndyCar series. Already has 3 victories on the year, but the one he wants the most is the Indianapolis 500. Elio Castroneves comes right inside of him.
He's always on that turn. I think he's obviously very, very good going to that straight, and every time he has a quick look at it, sooner or later, we might see an overtaking maneuver happening over there.
Well, I don't know if he made a mistake right there or not, Jill. Brian Herta is starting to pull away as they come through this little chicane area.
Nice. That's the way it goes. When the guy accelerates out of the corner, it's very, very easy for the guy in front to pull away.
Riding along with Tony Kanaan. Scott, what are you seeing?
Right now, watch how he's working this wheel. That we have a situation right now where the whole thing is that you've got to really work that wheel to get through the turn and then use the gears all the way up through the gearbox.
Well, Jill, they've apparently listened at the drivers' meeting. I won't say for the first time, but I think they took Brian Barnhart's words right to their melons because they are driving clean and letting the course come to them.
Absolutely, sure they did, and they absolutely proved me wrong as well because I was 90% sure that something was going to happen on that first turn. But, you know, they show their professionalism and their control and self-restraint. And
0.7 miles an hour, and only 5 laps have been run over 200 the entire race. So Danica, we talked about this, Scott. Maybe the racetrack and the car are starting to come to her as we approach the 85th lap of 200.
Well, as we ride along with Danica now, watch the steering wheel movement that she has. The car looks like it's a little bit rougher than maybe Tony Kanaan, who was riding out front. And you can see right there, a lot more movement in the steering wheel for her. It seems like the car is riding a little rougher through the turns than Tony's was.
If you want to try and close the gap, about 6 laps till we stop.
6 laps until they stop. See these guys.
Catching Kite again. Outside. Here's outside. You're clear.
Looked like Wheldon got some dirty air off the car in front and actually had to get out of the gas. And here looks like possibly Jimmy Kite might be back on the racetrack on the low side there on your left-hand side with the ethanol car as she clears him. The key thing they said, use the overtake button.
He's looking outside right rear. You're clear.
Danny Wheldon having a look on the right rear side, Todd. What they're telling her to do is use the overtake button. They want her to get up into that pack and maybe get a few mod in the number 4 Pennzoil car. Watch this Firestone telemetry information there. 164, 5, 7, 8 miles an hour going in through the turns. And he gets back on the throttle 100%. Watch the G-forces just as they start to increase. And you can see right here, the tire's working its optimum right now. It's right in the middle of the green zone.
It's impressive to see that throttle at 100%, then it drops down momentarily and it goes right back up, and that's when the G's pop up with him. 3.4.
And anytime a car works better for a driver, the throttle is reduced less, and the G's are just a little bit higher. It grabs another gear, running in traffic right now. We talked about this curve. You can see the lights, flash bulbs popping off. And here we go. The only straightaway that's actually on this is the back stretch there, just 860 feet long.
Welcome back to Nashville. It's the Firestone Indy 200. Thomas Scheckter had the pole, but just 3 laps into it, Dario Franchitti has moved to the lead. Danica Patrick, who started second, currently sits in 8th place. But, folks, this is a long race, and one thing Danica has shown, Scott, is patience.
So you ride along right now with Jimmy Kite on the ethanol car. Patience is going to have to be the key thing for everybody today. We talked about that almost in every race, but because this is such a hard racetrack to pass at,
fuel when they do come in, so they've almost have to come in next time around. I don't see them being able to go more than one.
Well, they've gone 21 laps so far since their last pit stop. This is the second time that Kanaan has led this afternoon.
We haven't seen anybody run more than 22 laps race long, even with the yellows and everything. Everybody's pitted on either lap 20, 21, or 22. So I would think they would almost certainly come in this next time by.
Well, you have both the Andretti Green teammates now will be pitting at the same time. We would guess that they'll pit at the same time because both have gone 21 laps.
And they did the last time.
There's some moisture on the lens right there.
They pitted the same lap last time, followed each other into the pits, and there was no problems. I don't think it was moisture or rain.
Got some pit stops coming up where you can change your car, get your car working a little bit better if it's not. But right now, she's got to understand what her car does in traffic like this, in this dirty drafting area that we talk about. Relay it to the engineers in the pit lane so they can make changes during the next pit stop to make the car better.
As we take a look at the Firestone telemetry on Danica, Patrick, 220 miles an hour there momentarily, 100% throttle. Scott, everything looked good from your perspective.
You see those G's climbing up there just over 3. The tire temperature in that green zone means that the tire pressure and temperature is just where it needs to be. Again, working the throttle, working the steering wheel, off the gas a little bit. The car is moving up the racetrack right now, exactly right there. That air that's in the front, and she's got to be cautious not to take out the person that's on the top side of her, which is Brian Herta.
Just ahead of her, the number 3 car, the red and white, that is Elio Castroneves. Scheckter has a problem. Let's check in quickly with Jamie.
Guys, Thomas Scheckter, the number 4 car, has radioed in and said that he thinks that the left front nose vents, this part right here, is broken. They did confirm that that's what's happening. The next stop, they may replace the entire nose.
All right, thank you very much, Jamie. Unfortunate turn of events. We'll see how that plays out for Thomas Scheckter, but it is Dan Wheldon who leads the Toyota Indy 300. Can he...
Here we look back at Hornish again, having a little look at Danny Wheldon. You can hear the RPMs just get a little bit lower in the engine going through the turn, just binding up a little bit from 10,300 down to about 10,000 even. Top 3 gear ratios, 4th, 5th, and 6th are so close in these cars. The drivers have to watch their illuminated dash. The bar graph will tell them exactly when they need to upshift and downshift.
Riding on board with Dan Wheldon, the Klein Tools Honda. He is the champion for the season, but he is a greedy young Brit. He'd like to get another checkered flag and get the record 7 wins on this year. But when he was in a calmer mood, he sat down with one of his rivals, that being Danica Patrick. And here's part 2 of Dan and Danica. Call it 21 questions or truth or dare, but it is compelling television. 500. Todd Harris along with Scott Goodyear. Tony Kanaan continues to lead. Dario Franchitti in 2nd. Sam Hornish Jr. in 3rd. Danica Patrick has now moved up to 5th place, Scott. And there you see the legend of women drivers who have come through here. Sarah Fisher, the most recent, back in 2000. Lynn St. James, Janet Guthrie, who started it all back in 1977. And Scott, we have talked so much about Janet Guthrie and her abilities. If she had the same equipment that Danica has, do you think she would have done better?
I think Danica's definitely got the best equipment of any of the ladies actually that have come here. But watch her right now, getting a draft right now, going up behind. Will he make? Yeah, it's Elio. Looking at Elio.
Inside, clear.
Elio left her room. See, he left her a lane on the lower side. She left-hand wheels are actually right down the white lane. Wow. She's going to come out of 2 now. Look for the draft again. Watch, she just caught a shift right here with her right hand. She's going to turn around and probably get the draft. He's running the low line right now, wants to protect his turn, make her move to the outside. I'll tell you something, though, the IRL is not going to like that. Danica is trying to really push herself through. There's been 187 men lead this race, Todd, and she wants to be the first woman. She is driving the wheels off that car.
Lap 16 of 200 on a picture-perfect day here in Indianapolis.
Well, there you're riding along with Danica. Danica started in the 16th position. She was mired back there in 16th for a while, made that pit stop, had a good pit stop, and is currently in the 12th spot. Had been in 11th, so she just got passed by Matsura. Dropped her back to 12th. Sharp is 13th, but you see Sharp back there, and right behind Sharp is Jeff Bucknam. And of course, she's going to win the rookie championship. She needs to finish 7th or better today to lock up the championship. And of course, Ryan Briscoe, another promising rookie on the sideline after his injury 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and she'll readily admit that she's not as good on the road courses as she is on the oval. Doesn't have near the experience that she would like to have. She enjoys running them, but has a lot to learn yet. And she's the first to admit that.
Well, the question is, as far as this race team, Larry, with Ray Hall Letterman, they're going to run 2 cars next year. Danica I bet's going to be back. So now who has the other seat?
Danica will be back, and I've talked to some of the people at that team, and they tell me that that's not entirely true. They could still run a 3-car team. It all depends on sponsorship.
On board with Thomas Scheckter. And there you see the Firestone telemetry, 171 miles an hour, lifting a bit right there. Lifting a lot right there.
Always happens in the race trim. You see that number we're talking about, that throttle number. Full throttle going down the straights, and watch the G's increase here as we go through the turn. Up to over 3.5, 3.8. In qualifying, Joe DeFerrin, you know that you see four.
He has pretty much dominated this race, riding on board with Scott Sharp right now. And there's Elio Castroneves on the left-hand side, the 3-car for the team, Tim Penske.
Scott, who now lives in Jupiter, Florida, actually did not go home this past week. Had a lot of obligations for both Delphi and Futaba.
Still there. Still there. Still there. Still there. Just on your corner. He's coming back. You're clear behind him.
Now that's it's really only been Penske so far this year that has had an answer for the Andretti Green group.
Here's your Firestone telemetry on Danica Patrick as she makes her way around. We have passed the halfway point, coming up on just 100 laps to go here at Pikes Peak.
Now watch the miles per hour there as she goes through the turn. The throttle is looking pretty good, not far off the throttle. And we'll watch the G-forces as she goes into the turn. It will start to build up, maybe past over 3, all the way up to 4. And then the tire temperature right in the middle for her right now.
Looks like we're really sliding that right front tire.
Some great information coming from the engineer. Sliding that right front tire means that she's probably got a car that's pushing. Means it's understeering. It wants to go up to the wall on the front. Taking advantage of both Kanaan and Wheldon.
There you see the Firestone telemetry of Thomas Scheckter, 216 miles an hour, 100% throttle. And there's the G's. He is pulling over 3 as they go into that corner. Now as they approach turn number 3, it is Dan Wheldon, number 26, just ahead of him.
Just a lot of dancing going on with the car down the straight. We talk about the ridges that you can see on the race course there when they've paved this racetrack. The thing that these drivers have talked about so far today is that all these grooves that are going through there, those lanes as they call them, are making the car shift around.
Or Watkins Glen, it'll be very interesting. What do you see? I mean, Danica's somewhat new to this course.
Still no time from behind. Yasukawa is 5 seconds plus back.
Great information coming from pit lane and the spotter that she has nobody behind her, so she can just concentrate on driving the car and looking forward to try and connect with the person that's up ahead, which is the yellow car, number 4 of Thomas Scheckter. Listen to the throttle as she goes through, not completely on the gas all the way. Hard braking zone here. A quick right, a quick left. You want to get the throttle as quickly as possible, maybe a little sooner than that, and then get the power down to the ground. Every time you can get on the gas a little sooner, you gain a little bit more speed coming out of the turn. Wait a little longer going into the braking zones. Makes you just a little bit quicker going in, maybe a 10th here, 10th there. It all adds up, but here she goes up to turn 1 right now, across the start-finish line, through turn 1. About 4,000 pounds of downforce in the car right here, going up underneath that hill as the track comes up to you. The car gets pressed into the hill, and then it goes light over the brow that we just had. Through 2 and up through 3 here, and a quick right over through 3A and back down the hill, and that's just a lot of work, 1 lap at a time, Todd.
And we are turning 80. But Danica Patrick, 23 years of age, out of Roscoe.
The car is loose. It's not a very fun ride when it's like that, is it?
No, it's not. See, the comparison is where with Thomas is quite clear. You can see he's steering quite a bit more in the middle of the turn.
There's your Firestone telemetry as we go on board with Thomas Scheckter, 216 miles an hour. The most impressive part of Thomas Scheckter, and I wouldn't expect anything else, bottom of your screen, 101% throttle. He's got that thing mashed.
When the car is handling well, even in traffic, you should be flat all the way around. Sometimes you hear the guys lift like he just did there now. That's a little bit of understeer. That's a little moment. But if the car is handling perfect, one should not need to lift.
So Thomas Scheckter currently sits in 4th place, and it is Scheckter who's driving, has been a
very fast driver, deserves a great chance to run a full series.
Well, the brothers Grimmer in theaters now, but the brothers Lazier are racing live in Chicagoland. Jacques right now currently running in 5th place, and his brother Buddy running in 10th place. Buddy Lazier, of course, an Indianapolis 500 champion, and Jacques Lazier, good to have him back on the circuit. Nice addition to the team.
Very knowledgeable driver, a very patient driver. Done a great job. Remember, they're Toyota power. Everybody says the Hondas have a little bit more horsepower around here. First Toyota is Sam Hornish Jr. is running in third. Then you move yourself down to Jacques Lazier, the first car in that Target Chip Ganassi stable. The other two obviously are out.
Hands full right now as he is dropping back outside the top 10.
Exactly right, Doc. Great call on that understeer, because if you do watch his right hand, what will end up happening is you'll see that hand himself should actually just be in the angle that it's at right now all the way through the turn. If it gets anywhere close up to that 12 o'clock area, which is doing more so in turns 1 and 2, his car is pushing. Now the wind is also making that handle differently for him in 1 and 2, but you'll hear him get off the gas and not carry the speed through the turn. That's why he's 2 or 3 miles an hour slower. In cockpit adjustments that Doc talked about, Todd, change the weight jack or change the roll center or change the roll bar rather, and this helps the car handle a little bit differently. He's hoping for a yellow right now.
Look at the throttle there as we take a look at Firestone telemetry. He's still at 214 miles an hour, but you said it, the throttle backed all the way down to the 40%, and for Dan Wheldon, that is somewhere he rarely goes, except possibly on pit entrance when you have to get down to 60 miles an hour. Still at 99%, 98 now. This is a problem, Scotty, do you think is linked to what happened to him earlier this morning when he was out practicing?
You should be able to run 100% throttle around here. He starts to ease off of it. You can certainly see what's going on. And for him, anytime he gets off the throttle as he's right now, from those cars in front, he's getting that disturbed air. The car's got that push. The front doesn't want to turn when he turns the steering wheel. If you think about driving on ice and the front wants to go up towards the wall, that's exactly what he's experiencing. Real light in the steering wheel, and he's just saying, I need a yellow, guys. Help me fix the car. Some changes possibly on the car, or they just made it a completely different change for the weather.
And the rest of the field starting to work with him. And moments ago, radio chatter, Thomas Scheckter says if we stay in line, I think we can get him.
You're clear. Clear inside. Clear.
Buddy Lindblom, the spotter right now for Thomas Scheckter, saying clear. Key thing, does he have enough speed right now to get past these guys, or does he even want to? Right now, he just might want to turn around and try and conserve some fuel running behind both of these Penske cars up the front.
As we take a look at the Firestone telemetry of Thomas Scheckter, there you see the throttle. Oh, wow. He's lifting.
That means the car's probably got a little bit of understeer. You can hear him sort of gradually get back on the throttle. That's
Dan Wheldon out in front as we go on board with Darren Manning. The Target Chip Ganassi ride, the number 10 vehicle, and right now it looks like he's starting to slide back just a little bit as Elio Castroneves, the number 3 red and white, gets around him.
Now watch his hands if the car's starting to go away on him, because it was so competitive at the beginning. Watch his hands. If it's not working well, you'll start to see him really move his hands a lot on the steering wheel.
Well, there's a huge amount of traffic over there, and we spoke to you about traffic when the race started. And there's people everywhere. There's a line of cars, and I believe Ed Carpenter is the first guy in the front of that line is holding people up, and that's what's going on right now. There's a lot of people changing position.
Now watch his hands right now.
There's
you can see
there.
Right there. See how he's working the steering wheel. His right hand should only probably come to there if the car's working well. His right hand's going up to the top. That's the understeer that we talk about, Jill DeFerrin. So that means he's not getting through the turns as fast as he wants to.
The tension at the drivers right now is incredible, because
as we take a look at her Firestone telemetry, she's running right around 210 miles an hour. There you see her cracking the throttle just a little bit, and that's Roger Yasukawa. That is Koski Matsur, number 55 on the inside. Roger Yasukawa was knocked out earlier on lap 55, and it's Danica Patrick and Scott. As a novice that I am, with my experience driving at Richmond in my Chevy Cobalt, it does not look like Danica is comfortable with that car.
Well, when you're watching the throttle right there, it's starting to go up and down. She's really working the throttle, working the car. Maybe the car's not as comfortable for her. And whenever you're off the pace a little bit and you're just sort of running in the back section, it's hard to actually get past people and keep that momentum up, because you're always dicing for position. But Darren Manning right now not giving her a whole lot of room. His car is moving around because Koski Masura up front is giving him some dirty air. So his car is sort of dancing, and he's just trying to keep the thing going straight.
The battles continue throughout the track here. They finally get by Koski Matsur, number 55. He stays the
time in this race. He started there, but he immediately went backwards, and now he's back up there in the front.
Scott Sharp getting very close to Tony Kanaan, inches away.
Just on your corner. He's holding with you.
You know, and Scott Sharp right now is the oldest driver in the field right now at 37, so he's acting like a 20-year-old. Plus, last year he was always at the back because he didn't have a very good package underneath him. He's probably enjoying this right now, Joe.
And he's got that famous hand style, which Jill DeFerrin absolutely loves.
He keeps moving his hands around. I don't really understand how he does that, and he can still control the car. Most people just hold the hand steady, like you saw Tony or Brian Herta or Dario Franchitti. And here he goes around the outside.
Well, let's take a look at his Firestone telemetry. He's at 100%. doesn't tell us a whole lot, and he's running speed at nearly 210 miles an hour, sometimes dipping up to 214.
He's doing very well. I think they had 4 pit stops. He probably adjusted his car a little bit, and the car is obviously handling better. He can follow Thomas very closely there.
What you're saying, Joe, is he didn't go to driving school for 10 and 2 as he starts to now go for Indianapolis, and what Danica Patrick's getting the opportunity to do right now as you ride along with Thomas Scheckter. Just watch his hands, listen to the throttle. Hard on the gas, does not lift off. He's going to try to take advantage of a slipstream here. Goes through the gearbox right now. Rice is trying to push him down low on the racetrack, and here he goes up high. Man, he drove that thing in there so hard, and I thought he was about ready to go.
Yes.
Here comes Rice. Now he's going to come back around the inside. This is a sort of thing that drivers love, you know. This is what they call tit for tat. We're going to turn around and get a situation here. Dirty air coming off the car in front. He'll carry more speed coming out of this turn, and maybe Rice is better down the other end. We talked about that egg-shaped racetrack that we have here. Cars can't work the best at both ends. There's a bit of a compromise, and actually right now, Rice in the 15 car that's running ahead of you right there knew exactly where Scheckter was going to go, and he turns up having the situation just move a little bit further forward. And see, now she's got a bit of a run because those guys lost the momentum up front, but really nowhere to go when it's side by side with 2 cars up in the front.
L2 this time by.
Lap 2, that means they want her in 2 laps. She should push the button on the radio to confirm.
Outside of Helio. Outside.
And you will not have that opportunity to actually do that type of move further in the race.
On board with Thomas Scheckter looking behind him. Your leaders, Dario Franchitti. Thomas Scheckter sits in 2nd place. Tony Kanaan in 3rd. And really 2 teams dominating this race thus far. The Firestone Indy 200. Andretti Green running 1 and 3, and Panther Racing running 2 and 4. So it's the shootout between the Hondas and the Chevrolets.
As we ride along right now with Thomas in this Firestone telemetry, look at the miles per hour. You're certainly not actually scrubbing too much speed off. 100% throttle all the way around here. These cars have gotten so good over the last couple of years, they don't really have to lift, sometimes even in traffic. Watch the G-forces right now climb up to over 4. That's what these drivers are seeing. And this is right now the
Car being loose all weekend long. He said it just seems like it wants to spin all the time. He actually spun off the course during the morning practice.
Let's watch the telemetry here on Dixon. Going down the front straightaway, 100% throttle. Now he goes into turn 1. Drops the throttle way back. Back to the tire temperature. Gear up to 4th, 5th.
And you're basically flat out. Once you come out of turn 1, you're flat out all the way through. You're up to the gears going down into the chicane. This should be the fastest part of the course right here.
168, 69. Yeah, he just saw 72 before he's hard on the brakes and downshifting. But that is so fast there. Just a very, very fast section.
Yeah, when they put that chicane in, they made it a plenty fast chicane. Now you're going downhill into this left-hander. And again, this is a very easy place to get into trouble. If you get down in there and get the brakes locked up, it'll spin on you very quickly because you got all that momentum down that big long hill. Still going downhill.
Into the boot.
This is the bottom. Now you start back uphill out of turn number 9. Now you're going to the heel of the boot. This is the heel of the boot as you see it up there on your screen.
Big elevation change. Car gets light right here. She's got to crest that hill.
This is a very tricky corner. Oops, right there, you got a little loose.
He had to grab that wheel.
This is a pretty normal corner right here. And this last one, you just have to make sure you get through it well and get off.
There's really no room. You're right out to the edge of the racetrack, right to the wall there.
Yeah.
On board with Thomas Scheckter, this is your Firestone telemetry. Dr. Goodyear, take us through it.
Well, you see the speed right there, getting down just to maybe about 145 miles an hour in the middle of the turn. 100% throttle. You talked about if the car's working well for you, you stay in the throttle a little bit longer. I'd say he's getting back on the throttle a little quicker than the last time we visited with Thomas Scheckter on the Pennzoil car. Watch the G-forces 8 up here, just over 4, 4.1 every time you go around the turn. And we talked about the Firestone tire is running perfectly right in the middle of the green. So right now he's probably got a pretty happy race car.
There's your Firestone telemetry as we had that very unflattering picture of Danica earlier.
Stronger than the other.
I think Dan is trying to get in front of Sam in the middle of the turns. You can see him sliding up a little bit onto Sam's line. We'll see what happens here.
As we go on board with Tony Kanaan, you guys are former great drivers, not just good drivers, but great drivers. We were 17
That's
laps.
very nice of you.
17 laps in yellow. Physically, are they ready to go full speed? Obviously, it looks that way. As we jump on board with Brian Herta.
Now watch as they start to go into the turns. They'll probably pick up a gear, maybe go down a gear going through the turns. There we are with the right hand. He takes the opportunity to go on this front straightaway. You see, it's a curved straightaway, not straight whatsoever. Turning into turns 1 and 2, down another gear. We keep saying the gears. Watch his right hand over here on this section, picking up a gear all the time. Back in 3 and 4. See how quick these laps are? 15.5 to 16 seconds. You just don't get any time to rest here. Heart rates are up around 170, 175 beats a minute. These guys and girl will be physically tired when this race is over tonight, Todd.
The XM satellite of Brian Herta currently sitting in 9th place as he goes around this track. As Scott pointed out, 15-second laps. It is extremely tight. Richmond International Raceway is the site. This is the 7th race of 17 on the IndyCar Series. On board with Danica Patrick, getting the rear view.
Now her job right now, as she's starting to hear it already, cars are just in back of you. They're talking about the leaders right now. She does not want to go down a lap, and the key thing right now, 3 cars back, is going to be the leaders.
On board with Scott Dixon, he is the last driver, but he is already pitted. So Dixon pitting out of sequence. Behind him is your leader. That is Hornish, and Hornish is coming on quick. Look at the drive he's getting. Where do you take him, Scott? The outside or in?
So fast, he's going to have to make a decision.
And not only is he now 2 laps down, and the leaders are taking a pace that he's unable to match right now, but the word is that anyone on that Target Chip Ganassi team crashed the car, pig slip time.
You know, you don't want that pressure on you when you get in there, but right now, all Scott Dixon is going to be hearing is the spotter. And Packy, as we call him, Glen Wheeler, is probably just in his ear all day long, and that's just not a fun day.
Countdown 3.
Hear him,
And the car turns better. She now can hold it on the bottom of the racetrack, but the car's still a little bit unsteady in traffic. Todd?
All right, thank you, Doc. Danica has the fastest lap of the race, folks, 216.7. That came on lap number 14, and I don't know, maybe the stars are aligned just right for Danica, but things just seem to be working out for her, Scott. And we've seen this for Danica the first 10 races of the season. She will fade, but she always seems to come back towards the end of the race.
You know, I think they've seen a different Danica this weekend. You know, just the seriousness on her face, the pressure that seemed to be on her this morning, and sometimes that's needed. Sometimes people work best under pressure. And today, I just say it's something there about her. She just is very confident today.
Champion is in 3rd position. Franchitti, his teammate, is now in 4th, and 5th is Carpentier. Glennis Dixon is here watching her son this afternoon. She is here from down under to watch Scott, and Scott right now is showing his mom the fast way around this racetrack.
Well, that's a good thing. I mean, his family is a very important part of his racing, as we talked about with Wheldon, is with a lot of race car drivers, quite honestly. We've talked about Tony Kanaan, his relationship with his father before he passed away. And so, you know, it's great when the families, especially when they're from so far away, can come up and watch. And it's a good thing she's here today, because it's a great run.
Seems like it's actually paying dividends for Sam Hornish. So riding along now with Thomas Scheckter on the Pennzoil car, just getting passed by Danny Wheldon.
Here's your Firestone telemetry on Thomas Scheckter, number 4. Hovering right around 170, Scott. You like what you see there? Throttle 100%, but that's no surprise with Scheckter.
And look how much he comes down on the throttle going through the turns. That's not what you want to see. In practice this morning, he was 100% all the way around. Now going into the turns here, the G-forces, the force of drivers seeing, let's see this. Usually it's up over 3. If you get a bit more speed there, certainly those G-forces will go up. And this information here also, they see back in the pit lane, the tire temp and the tire pressure is perfectly in the green for the Firestone Firehawks.
There you see the name on the dashboard of Eric Eberts. He is the ride-along fan for Panther Pennzoil. And if Thomas wins today, Eric gets a trip to California in our final race of the year in Fontana. So
actually ended up having a victory again. He's very agitated. Just seemed like he was actually really enjoying it. And then once he got that win, I think the release sort of came on him, and he sort of knew that he was back there. Didn't have bad finishes. We talked about top 6 finishes in those races, only 2 DNFs, but that's exactly what he has to do today, is to make sure that he stays out of harm's way, because you can be out at any moment like we've seen.
Fellow countrymen right now, the two Brazilians doing battle. That is Helio Castroneves, number 3 on the high side, the red and white Team Penske car, and he is battling on board with Tony Kanaan.
Danica Patrick actually starting in 8th position. She is currently running back in 18th. So Danica dropping back now to 18th on the computer. What do you explain to that?
Let's listen to that. Fighting her race car. Look at her steering wheel right now. Getting difficult times going through the turn. She was off the gas, went down a gear as she actually went through the turn. I would have to say she's not very happy with the race car, and she's actually got a big space right now from the cars in front. Tells you that she's not very happy with the race car, probably running in that turbulent air from those cars up ahead.
Her teammate Buddy Rice, who started 3rd, Buddy Rice now has slid back as well.
Got out of the throttle, hoped that Dixon would get in too hot and slide wide, and he could get back under him. Dixon did not do that, and therefore maintained position.
Go up through the gears. You see that gap develop between 2nd and 3rd, so Dixon starts to drive away now.
Yeah, Dixon's actually got a pretty good lead.
So let's see if Carpentier now can get around Kanaan. Dixon starts to put some daylight between 2nd and 3rd. But now the question is, how soon before these leaders stop?
On board, and she has done exactly what she's had to do. Very impressive. The Toyota 300 is live, and we are watching Danica Patrick on board. Vince Welch made a great point in his interview saying we are going to do exactly this. Bring her along slowly, Scott. And as a driver of Danica's stature, they're doing perfect for her.
When I spoke with her the other day, she says, you know I have to finish all the races for the pure fact that I need the experience to be able to learn. The learning curve for me is going to be huge. She's gone through the first
car. Here's a guy who really turned his fortune around. But Scott, what's the name on the steering wheel? We've talked about this before.
Right there, part of their fan club that they actually have. You can log on to Pennzoil Panther Racing and log on for an opportunity to get to races through their team. A neat concept that they have, and they entertain fans on all cars at each event throughout the season. And that's, I think, is just a great idea, concept they came up with.
And if Thomas Scheckter wins, the name on the steering console, Mary Coons today, she gets a trip to California to the final race of the season. Well, our Toyota lap leaders, no big surprise here. It's all Andretti green with Dan Wheldon leading 27. Tony Kanaan.
Scotty, we've seen this before. Danica is patient enough, and she's got enough poise. Don't count her out just yet, despite the fact she's running 20th. Last year, Buddy Rice told me he slid all the way back to 16th and still won the race.
If you ride along with Danica right now, remember, she's a smart race driver.
Behind, that's Carpentier in front of you.
Getting the information from the spotter. No traffic behind, so she doesn't have to worry about looking in the mirror. She can concentrate exactly on what's going on up front. The 83 of Patrick Carpentier, the Red Bull Cheever car just to the right. That's a Toyota-powered car, and right now she's got to try and get that slipstream and make a move going into turn 1, down to Doc Punch.
And Scotty, they commented that Danica said the track is very, very slippery out here. Remember, she dropped way back at Indianapolis and then fought her way back to the front to be in contention in the final laps. They are going to make a major air pressure adjustment on her first stop. And what they told her a moment ago is take the rear bar and go all the way as soft as you can go and see if that'll help. Right now, she's struggling with the handle on her machine. Guys?
Sam Hornish, Penske just told Hornish, stay right where you are. We're fine where we are. Make a move if you can, but we're happy with 2. So Sam Hornish seems to be in the catbird seat right now, but you know Hornish is never happy with 2nd place, and he's won it on the last corner on the high side before.
No question about it, Vince. 27 career DNFs for Thomas Scheckter. He's not won since Michigan in 02. And Scott, what would this mean to this team and Chevrolet if he could pick up the victory here?
Well, first off, it'll be the first race they finished this season with their 2 main drivers. But the key thing, I think, right now, especially with Pennzoil being just down the road in Houston, Texas, a big coup to these guys because they know they have a lot of people up here watching.
Dario Franchitti coming up on his teammate, and we mentioned earlier, remember, Dr. Jerry Punch reported these two were not getting along too well earlier, and now it's Dario Franchitti set to lap Brian Herta. As you take a look at the Firestone telemetry, Brian Herta letting up the throttle, doing the wise thing, letting his teammate get by.
Yeah, very nice to take advantage of it. Getting right onto the front stretch. He loses a bit of time here through all this section here. Getting through the S's, which will come here very shortly after turn 7, which we're headed right now. All the gear shifting he's doing is through the lever. That's just right there on your right-hand side by the arrow. Watch his hand again. Hardly getting back onto the steering wheel because you're going through gears so quickly. Up to top gear, over the brow, we mentioned about 155 miles an hour, hard under braking. He wants to be close right here through section 9 because he knows that he has an advantage slightly right coming through 10 as we are now, coming up to 11. This is where Herta seems to always be just a little bit slow. Stay wide, and here's the mistake that he'll take advantage of, and absolutely in the right place of the cars are so aerodynamic, Jill, as you know, probably just that little small wing malfunction that he has, either with a bolt coming loose or maybe rubbing against another car, would be enough to give you understeer. So they're talking about changing that whole front wing. I will tell you what, that's a big change.
As we take a look at our Toyota lap leaders after 127 laps, it is Dan Wheldon with the majority of them at 87, then Thomas Scheckter at 13, Castroneves 9, and Kanaan at 8. Also Herta in the play, he had 5, Carpentier, and Mira had 1 lap led. And once again, Thomas Scheckter mixing it up, this time with Sam Hornish Jr. goes to the inside, and Hornish Jr. coming down on him, and Schecter's not going to budge.
I think he certainly doesn't seem like he can make an impression on these guys up ahead.
I never thought in all my broadcasting career that I would say Dario Franchitti needs to get around a gaggle of drivers, but you heard it here first, folks. As we look at our Firestone telemetry, there you see the throttle dropping way off, tire temps coming up, Scott, and the gears working through it, as we pointed out at the top of the show, over 3,000 shifts during the course of 80 laps.
It's the exciting part, up over the hill now, on the brakes just a little bit to get through the carousel, turn 6 as we call it. You see he's just hesitating getting back on the throttle. Maybe the car is not exactly what he would like underneath him, but the sooner you get on the throttle, the more of an impression he will make on the car up ahead.
Well, that's tough, Scott, right off the bat.
Well, that's the same problem that he had yesterday. I spoke to him after the final warm-up, of which he did not participate in. He said there has been a gear selection problem, could not fix it for warm-up, thought they would have it fixed for today, but that's a bad case for that situation right there for Thomas Engel.
So the Rockstar Chevrolet, as Jamie Little report, he is down right now, missing those 2 gears as we go on board with Tony Kanaan.
Well, Tony said it, you know, it wouldn't take very long for him to get up front, and right now he's running 8th. I think he is now probably going to calm down and see what's going to happen. Now, he's in no hurry. He can see the leader right in front of him, and he can take his time a little bit. He's changing the weight checker now. He's probably handling not so good.
Just ahead of him, quite possibly the best battle taking place, and that is Sam Hornish Jr. It's Indy 300 presented by Mr. Clean as we ride on board. This is the 7th race that Scheckter has led this year, and he is running the Chevrolet Power. He kind of snuck into this thing. No one really talked about him, Scott, during qualifying. Scheckter once again running very strong for Team Panther Pennzoil.
He certainly didn't unload off the trailer very quick. It's usually a gauge that drivers look for when you arrive at a racetrack to sort of give a barometer of how your weekend might work. He's going to want to start to get down the low side there right now to stop those guys from sneaking underneath them. But obviously they've made a lot of engineering changes, and right now he is fast.
Thomas Scheckter is your
possibly starting to find her way on this track. We've seen this before, Scott. She seems to start out, get in traffic, find a rhythm, as Ray Lato was telling her, and then she starts moving forward.
And doing a tremendous job. Watch her right hand, right down there. She's starting to use the gear selection all the way through there. Very smart from her as a driver to keep the engine in the RPM at which it needs to run. That's up to 10,300 RPM with these engines in the Indy Racing League. A little bit slower through turns 1 and 2, gets back on the gas, clicks up to probably 5th gear, looks at the traffic ahead. This is where she needs to make a decision. Do I go high or low? She's now going to take the high line. Make sure she's clear of the traffic, back on the gas, trying to keep the momentum up as she starts to come back onto the front stretch.
That Firestone telemetry is amazing because it gives you an idea of just exactly how fast they're going and all the specs with a throttle at 100%.
Well, wasn't all that long ago they had it in these.
Yeah, that's true. And you hear the downshift there to the last corner for Kanaan. You see the leader up in front as they'll complete 49 laps, 11 laps to go.
Well, Kanaan's giving it everything he's got. He catches him a little bit one lap and then loses the next. But overall, it appears that Dixon is winning the wars.
You know, if you're a race fan, though, realistically, Larry, we're not supposed to say this because we're not supposed to be partial. Andretti Green has won the championship. Wouldn't you almost like to see Scott Dixon win this thing for the way that season has gone for Chip Ganassi? It'd be a big boost for them.
I think just for the fact that it would be a great boost for the team, yes. I think it would be a great thing for Scott Dixon and that team. They've had such a bad time over the last 2 years that it would certainly be good for all those guys.
And if you go into the winter months on a high note, it's much easier than going into the winter months on a low note.
Well, it gives you some hope, you know. You know that you can go out and beat these guys now. You've got you're not going to be running in the back of the pack. And I think it's a terrific thing to see him running this well, win, lose, or draw. Fontana, by the way, back up into 6th place after a drive-through penalty early in the race, got mired deep in the field. So he's had a pretty good run all day long.
Once again on lap 50 now with 60 laps scheduled. Dixon is your leader by just under a second on Kanaan. Franchitti is 3rd. Carpentier is 4th.
Tankful, and that's what they look for. Right now, aboard Kanaan, getting a draft into 3. Will he make it? I'm not sure. Listen to that, off the throttle, and Hornish stays up high.
Wow. And that was, I was going to ask you, is Tony Kanaan doing the right thing? I thought, well, maybe he's going to draft it. He's going to take a look at the Firestone telemetry. But it almost looks like he is unable to keep the pace of Sam Hornish Jr.
Well, Hornish, you know, right now, I think he certainly wants to lead this event. There's a lot of pride for him running with Penske. He said, you know something, I'm getting to run for my childhood dream team. And right now, not living very far away from here in Ohio, I'm sure he has a lot of friends and family here. And the key thing right now for him is he wants to lead as much as possible.
There you see how the pole sitters have fared. Buddy Rice won it last year from the pole 2004. Elio Castroneves did it in 2003, and he only got to 2nd place, so it is something very difficult to do as we ride on board the pole sitter.
But as you look at Tony Kanaan, he certainly seems like he's setting his sights further forward.
Roger Yasukawa currently sitting behind Patrick Carpentier, Alex Barron's teammate, and that is 14th and 13th respectively. Roger Yasukawa sitting in 14th.
Now you hear them downshift going into the turn. That mostly happens just down turns 3 and 4 because, as we mentioned, this track is shaped like an egg. Turns 1 and 2 that we ride along into right now, flat, wide open. You don't hear the driver take his foot off the gas.
He wanted, well, he got it. Now he's looking for a championship on the IndyCar Series. Join us next Sunday as the IndyCar Series heads to Pikes Peak International Raceway for the Honda Indy 225. Now there's only 5 races left to decide the championship. Defending race winner Dario Franchitti's already had his problems today. Can he straighten them out at Pikes Peak? That's next Sunday at 3:30 Eastern right here on ABC. And for the latest news and IndyCar standings, go to ESPN.com, search IndyCar. It's always a fun ride when we go to Pikes Peak as we go on board with Danica Patrick starting to move up just a little bit. Had her problems. Now she slid back to 11th. And Scott, you made a mention during the side-by-side break that Danica has been staying on that low side. You would recommend she goes up high?
Well, it seems like everybody has a better time of going up high to keep their foot on the gas a little bit more, as we heard right there going through turns 1 and 2. That's probably the most she's been on the gas at any time going through that turn. And here comes Herta looking on the outside. But, you know, we talked about consistency as one of the keys to the race. She's now back to 10th because her car seems like it's starting to go off just a little bit. And the consistency is going to be a factor. Run up top. The thing that you have to remember is you have to be able to run low and high if you're going to be able to pass people around this racetrack, especially in those last few laps. Again, up on the high side of section, off to the right-hand side. Danny Wheldon certainly having problems.
You're clear.
So Danica Patrick gets the pass on Dan Wheldon. She will move up, and we check in quickly with Vince Welch.
I spoke with her engineer, Ray Lato, before the race. He said they're starting Danica with a little more downforce than originally planned because of the morning rain. They said they hope they didn't slow her down too much because it's really important to keep her in touch with the lead pack. So far, it looks like it's working out just fine as Dan Wheldon starts to make a move on her outside.
Well, Vince, some good information, but when you put more downforce in the car goes around the turn, well, a little slower down the straightaway. I think that's why we see everybody catching up to her and maybe getting an opportunity to pass her going along the straightaway. That downforce slows the car down, not as great top speed, Todd.
There you see on the left side of your screen, that is her teammate, number 17, Vitor Mira, getting a look at it. Dan Wheldon getting a huge draft behind her, and he just blows.
You ride along with Kanaan back in 2nd position, grabs a gear, grabs another gear.
Really only 2 really good
Fight that
places.
steering wheel, though.
Yeah, there's really only 2 really good places to pass, and that's down the front straightaway and down the back straightaway. Those are the only 2 good places to head back on the front straightaway. If you're real close to a guy here, if you get through turn 11 and get a run on him, you might be able to outbrake him. But there are no real hard braking places. You brake about as hard here as anywhere. But you can see the banking there, and the width of the racetrack makes it a very fast corner.
Into turn 2 and what we call the S's, uphill, much elevation change. Unlike the temporary street circuits that we ran on, like St. Petersburg, Castroneves over Kanaan, Dixon, Franchitti, Carpentier.
Our series, and he is the big sheriff in town. As we ride on board with Ryan Briscoe coming down to 28 laps. And I'll tell you, that's why Dr. Punch is Dr. Punch. He did the math quickly. If you can run 199.5 and you've had the luck that Thomas Scheckter has, is there any way you bring him in, or you just let him go?
What do you do as a driver? You just let him go. But what do you do as a driver in that sense is you start to use a higher gear and maybe run 6th instead of 5th, try to run less RPMs in the engine, maybe try and breathe the...
Got a bit of a square dance call going there, and Thomas Scheckter now sliding back as Tony Kanaan reasserts his position on the track. So it's Wheldon, Castroneves, Hornish Jr., Kanaan, and Scheckter.
What is the interesting thing about the spotter? You could almost sense how close the guy was by how hyper the spotter was on your radio. Ooh, what happened there?
Something wasn't right with Tony Kanaan's car. He had to lift off the throttle mid-turn. And right now he's trying to move up to make a little bit less room for the guys trying to go around on the side of him, which right now is Scott Sharp.
Tony Kanaan
with actually not being able to maybe compete in the pit stop contest. And, but the key thing as we listen to her radio is that she was fastest on carburation day, on practice day, really gave guys a lot of indication about what's going on with her car.
There you hear the radio chatter. Not only does she have to deal with 224 miles an hour and 32 of the fastest in the world, she's got that chatter in her ear, Scott, and it almost sounds like sometimes you can't hear quite exactly what they're saying, and that take your focus off the race course.
Here we go. She's going to get a great draft. Now we've got that's going through turn 3 right now. There's a spotter in turn 1, Todd, and a spotter in turn 3 because this track is so large, 2.5 miles to one spotter. No threat from behind, so she knows she can focus on the driver in front. This track is so large here, 2.5 miles. We don't need 3 cars up in front of you.
And he is running the special wings up front, Scott. We talked about that in qualifying.
You know, just right here, look at these mid-plate that you have right there. 2 large ones. I haven't seen anything that large in any of the other cars around the paddock right here. A little bit of different aerodynamic tweaking going on by the Panther group.
Do you think that's why he's been able to save those tonight?
Well, I think that's maybe just a little bit of Thomas Scheckter and pure talent, because I'll tell you something. There again, we talked about...
Danica likes to sit. She'll sit in 10th for 30 or 40 laps, Scott, and then she seems to find something those last 50 laps, and that is one of your keys. Watch the last 50, and that's where I think the Rookie of the Year has really excelled this year.
Look how she's working the steering wheel there. A little bit of dirty air from that car in front, down to 202 miles an hour. Back on the throttle. The G-forces that you see at every end. That tire temp obviously is right there with pressure and temperature. Just sit here, make sure you have an opportunity to fix the car if it's not working for you, as I always mention, and get the car ready for that last 50 laps. That's the most important.
As you look at Firestone telemetry, all I can say is grand.
You want to get going, and that's exactly what these guys are doing. We saw on the restart Mira drive over the grass in the front section. You don't get away with that too often.
As we take a look at our Firestone telemetry on board, Thomas Scheckter, the throttle at 100%, no surprise.
No surprise, a lot of guys are doing that. You don't want to lift off the throttle here with these new 3-liter engines. You certainly don't want to sort of breathe it because it will slow it down. G-forces there you see just getting up over 2, going through even the section here in the midsection. Look at that tire temperature. It's right up in the green, perfect for them. 3.6, 3.7, 3.8 we're seeing on the G-force, but that 100% throttle. And right
Watkins Glen later this season. Now, Jacques Lazier's in there right now. He's got a deal for 3 races, but road racing Scott Pruitt kind of seemed to be a match made in heaven with the Firestone Firehawks.
Did all the development work for them, and actually they made a great product. I had the opportunity to run on the Firestones at Indianapolis in 1995, a terrific tire. You talk about Scott Pruitt, a guy that I drove go-karts against back when we started, 9 or 10 years old, and raced go-karts across the country for many, many years.
Getting around him, he slides back to 6, and here comes Danica Patrick.
Scheckter in for position.
Great information there, knowing that that's not a lapped car that she's after. That's a position. Always makes the driver in the seat just try that little bit harder, Todd, when you know that.
Scheckter seems to have found his groove just ahead of Danica Patrick, able to hold her off right now. She tries the inside line earlier in the day during practice. She said she didn't like the outside. It was too slick. She came in to get grip.
Outside, still there, outside.
She has the position, and Scheckter has to respect it, but they will go side by side here.
A nice run. Remember we talked about trying to run high, trying to run low, and right now Scheckter's trying to get underneath Scott Sharp, who's actually having a very difficult day right now in the Delphi car, and Danica's starting to pick up a little bit of dirty air. You can see the speeds
nice
there,
job there,
just the last lap.
Down. You're lapping him.
Guys, Thomas Scheckter's been battling a loose race car, and we saw that moment as Scott described it earlier in the day. And he was really battling there with Danica. And when that car is loose and you've got someone side by side, you want to make sure not only you're taking care of that car for your own good, but also for the competitor next to you. Ruling enough in this race course and the number of shifts that you have to do and the different elevation changes. But Thomas Scheckter's having a problem. There's a gauge on the gear shift lever that detects the pressure on the shifting lever and engages the gear when you're wanting to shift it. Well, this gauge is malfunctioning, so it's not understanding, the gear is not understanding that it's time to shift. So Thomas Scheckter has to use the clutch every time he shifts the gear. What did you say before the race, guys? Over 3,000 shifts during the course of this race. So he has to use that leg and engage that clutch more than 3,000 times today.
Great information, Vince. And Scott, what kind of disadvantage is Scheckter at now?
Not really so much of a disadvantage, because the only big one for him is if actually the clutch had failed. But right now, this is going back to the way we used to go back. You have to have a lot of patience here. Brian Barnhart this morning in the drivers' meeting, the president of the IRL said, guys, take care of each other out there. It's all about you getting to the end of the race.
Well, Danica Patrick started on the pole, excuse me. She is now in 9th. Her teammate Buddy Rice just ahead of her in 8th as we take a look at the Firestone telemetry with Thomas Scheckter. 212 miles an hour. No surprise there with 100% throttle, Scotty, but that 3-point plus G is kind of a surprise to me. I mean, we saw those at Texas and Richmond with a high banking, but here, I guess it's a little more gradual with the speeds they're carrying. I guess it compensates for it. 15-degree banking here, Todd, versus that 24 that you have at Texas. The key thing, that's what the best thing about Texas here. What do you think Thomas Scheckter has to do? What does Tony Kanaan have to do?
You know, you always wonder about where their fuel gauge is set right now as far as a fuel trim inside the cockpit, which the driver can change and adjust to make the engine run lean to get more fuel mileage. You know, only those guys know and the engineers know through the telemetry in the pit lane exactly where they are as far as making it to the end of the race. We're sitting right now with Manning not hardly even getting off the gas, downshifting there with his right hand as we saw, and he's got his foot on the gas and he's going to slice underneath right now.
Wow. Support of ESPN's new side-by-side coverage that allows you to see today's race even during commercials.
You can see Dan Wheldon just in the distance there, and he's doing exactly the same thing he did before the pit stop. He's pulling away again, and he consistently runs half a mile an hour faster, 0.6 of a mile an hour faster than Helio Castroneves, who is now running second.
And Jill DeFair, the difference is now for Dan Wheldon is the fact that, according to the computers here in the pit.
Well, Jill talked about being frustrated on iffy pit stops. That has got to be the quintessential frustration, knowing that you have to come back in again.
Yeah, that's very frustrating news for Dario Franchitti, and it's hard for the driver at this point because you're all pumped up, there is frustration, there is aggression, all mixed up, but what Dario has to do now, he has to calm down, remember that he still has a job at hand, he has to drive hard, has to drive fast and get to the end of that race and not get too caught up with what's going on, get frustrated and hit the fence somewhere.
As we're on board with Dario Franchitti, a quick reminder, the Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg post-race winner chat, ESPN.com, keyword IRL. Well, with 69 laps complete, it is a rookie who leads them around this gorgeous course of Honda Grand Prix of St. Petersburg.
To run both high and low.
On board with Danica Patrick, currently running in 8th place.
Grabbing for the shifter on the right-hand side because car's going a bit too slow through the middle of the turn. She's trying to get that acceleration now coming out.
Scott, they just came over the radio to Danica, communicating to her, telling her, find your rhythm, get your timing down.
And a run-on going into turn 1.
Awfully close to a block as Buddy Rice comes down low. Scott Dixon had nowhere to go. He had to crack the throttle as we ride on board with number 9, Scott Dixon. He is a former IndyCar Series champion. This time he'll try it again, and Buddy Rice comes down again. As we take a look at our Toyota lap leaders after 42, it's Dario Franchitti with a dominating performance. 28 laps led, Herta with 8, Kanaan and Scheckter both have 3.
Right there in front of her, 7, 8, and 9 in positions with Vitor Buddy. And Scott Sharp has actually just slipped around Danica right now, but she just has to make sure she understands what the car is doing, communicating, seeing, going down for a gear change there, probably from 6th to 5th because she got some dirty air from the car in front. That understeer crept in. She turned the wheel a little bit more. The RPM started to fall off. She had to go down in the gearbox, select another gear to get that engine back up into its RPM band. Here she's got a good run going on right now. She's trying to get underneath Sharp. She had a good drive off of that turn.
And just moments ago, Danica Patrick and Scott Sharp getting very close together, not comparing.
Win championships.
Scott Dixon finally making a pit stop there, and talk about fuel efficiency. You know, Dixon may be laying up a little bit there, Scott, but he got it home and he put out a lot of laps.
Well, 94, 95 laps. Remember, he's off the gas so much right now because the car's not handling, that he's not consuming that much fuel. And as a driver, I can tell you, I'd rather be using a lot more fuel and having the car working and going a lot quicker.
So Dixon is in and out in the pits. And Sam Hornish continues to lead. Dan Wheldon in second. Elio Castroneves in third. You are watching ESPN's coverage of the AJ Foyt 225 from the historic Milwaukee.
Specialist of being up high. There he goes.
Now she gets the dirty air. There you see the, look at that, the Firestone telemetry. She is 100% throttle temp. Miles per hour approaching 200. There she goes. So she is settled in. Now don't forget, Danica still has the fourth fastest lap of the race at 200.7 miles an hour. Scott Sharp the fastest at 201.1.
Working the steering wheel right now. Remember, she's hoping for a yellow in about 20 laps that everybody would end up coming in.
Run around Sam Hornish Jr. as we ride on board with number 11, Tony Kanaan. He is the defending IndyCar Series champion.
And Todd, we talked about the spotters. All that spotter information going into Danica's ear. These guys are hearing this and girl all the way around here for 300 miles.
And Tony Kanaan has passed 4 cars on that last lap alone. Unbelievable as he started 12th, and here Kanaan is now moving up on Danica Patrick, who was the pole sitter. Danica has now slid back to 4th place with Kanaan just on the outside.
You know, I asked him, Todd, I think this is probably one of the impressive races that she had this year. I know she did a great job at Indianapolis and led, but I'm sitting here watching her 2 teammates that are already a lap down, both Vitor Mira and Buddy Rice, and they're struggling with their cars. They're not handling it the way they'd like them to. But you know something? She has just been running very strong and pushing the car, and she's up there chasing these guys and on the lead lap, and give her outstanding points for doing just a great job.
Well, last year by lap number 80 at Milwaukee, Kanaan, Hornish, and Brian Herta had all led.
Watch that is that he's so smooth right there. You know, he's not moving his hands very much at all. He's very concentrated and very deliberate. When we watched Danica's car a few moments ago after the stop when they made some changes, she was actually moving around a fair amount, and that just tells you how the car is working for her. See, she's seesawing right now at the wheel, telling me that her car is just a little bit nervous for her. She has to be a good communicator. She has to turn around as she's grabbing a gear there in the middle of the turn, very dangerous time, and she has to communicate with the team and tell them, hey, you know something, guys, this is what's happening with my race car. You need to fix it for me next stop.
Scott, here's a look at the Firestone telemetry for Danica Patrick. She's right on it. I mean, we talk about going flat for those fans who are just joining us because they want to see Danica. Going flat means she has the throttle all the way down.
Absolutely, and that's the key thing about it right now with the throttle that you see. 100% around here, and the G-forces, right, will increase when you start to get into the turn, up to 3.5 to 4, maybe a little bit more. You can see the tire temperatures up in the green in the proper working order. She grabbed a gear going into the turn there because she's getting that dirty air.
It's in 5th place. On board with Dan Wheldon, the points leader. How would you rate him as far as road course racing ability?
Very smart. When he's got a car that can finish 3rd, he will finish 3rd. When he can get up to the front, he will certainly do that also. We saw him win earlier this year at St. Petersburg. You know, a man that sits back and has gained a lot of knowledge from the Andretti Green teammates that he has his last couple of years. As we get through the S's there, a little lift on the left-hand part of 8 through 8A, coming up through turn 9 now, down from about 150 miles an hour in race trim, and down through the right and left-hand turns.
Before his stop.
Well, they could really stop anytime in the next 2 or 3, but I think you'll see them, if they've got fuel on board, they'll wait for 2 reasons. They won't have to take on quite as much fuel if they wait 1 more lap. And the main reason, though, is they want to make sure they get to the point where they can make it to the end.
You're riding along with Scott Dixon, who took this lead on lap 31. It's been a rather trying season for him, so this would be a good one for him to win with his mom here. Of course, his team needs a victory.
Yeah, I want to say hello to all of our friends down in New Zealand, including Tony Trello, Willie Kay, and all of them down there.
Michigan, he finished 4th. No, correction. I was looking at his
Back in 6th place as we go on board with Danica Patrick.
Watching her on board, she seems like she has problems in turns 1 and 2 down there on the bumps. 3 and 4, she seems to be running just a little bit stronger, and that's the turn that we're in right now. Not much throttle modulation going through turns 3 and 4. Still coming off of there, 210, 12 miles an hour through the front section here, going into that 14-degree banking, headed forward.
And the problem with Danica Patrick, guys, I commented a moment ago, they had to repair the under tray, and right now Danica is battling a significant understeer, exactly what Scott Goodyear was commenting on. When she makes a pass inside a car, and she goes beneath Vitor Mira, her teammate here, she has trouble keeping the car on the bottom of the racetrack. It slides up across the track. It will not turn in the corner.
Is that those adjustments that he did with the weight jacker inside the cockpit probably have helped that wing that has been broken for the car to handle. Wow.
I thought they touched there. Did they touch there?
It looked awfully close. With Thomas Scheckter, no, look at this.
Ellio's telling him, use your head, calm down.
There's still a lot of race to go, and Elio Castroneves and Thomas Scheckter engaged in the swapping of recipes of some sort, and Elio Castroneves gives him hits, and you're Ray Hall Letterman. Do you like that? I mean, she's not backing off. My initial reaction was good for her.
Well, great aggressive driving. You know something? She actually got passed, as we mentioned, going into 1 by her teammate, Vitor Mira, and this is turn 1 that we're going into right now. And on that lap, Vitor slid underneath, and you end up coming slow coming out of 2 right now, exactly where we are, and she made the move, and Sharp ended in the picture. Maybe she didn't even know he was there, but you know something? She kept her foot on the gas and kept going.
Danica Patrick starting 5th, now running in 9th as we check in with Jackaroo.
Well, you need to have grip here.
If you're wondering, number 16, Danica Patrick, she currently sits in 6th place as we go on board the number 27 of Dario Franchitti, married to Ashley Judd. This guy is as cool as they come, both on and off the track. Had a chance, Scott, to ride in his helicopter. He is a wonderful individual. Trust him with my life, and right now he sits in 3rd at the greatest spectacle of racing.
Look how those cars move around. He just downshifts from 6th down to 5th, going into turn 1. Right down below the white line, coming out of turn 2, down that 5/8 of a mile back straightaway. Watch his right hand over here just to turn around and see if he actually turns around and switches up a gear. There we go, top gear.
Riding on board the Arc X, that is Dario Franchitti, number 27 in the blue and white. He currently sits in 3rd place. Just ahead of him is Tony Kanaan, and Sam Hornish Jr. is your leader. We are now on board with 16, the rookie sensation. This is Danica Patrick trying to do something that no woman has done before, win or lead the Indy 500. She currently sits in 6th place. So far, so good for her, Scott. We talked to her about the intimidation factor of the Indy 500 running with 33 of them. But the Panther team, Scott, has looked so strong.
Riding along right now with Tony Kanaan. You see that sun just in the glare of turns 3 and 4 going off the concrete. The blue line on your right, you'll see when we go into the turn and come out of the turn, was put there as a request from the drivers because of the concrete color and the white wall. It was actually very difficult to see where the track ended and the wall started. Now just peek up here on your right-hand side, that blue, you'll be able to see, and also actually going into the turn, the same sort of thing. A nice smooth ride right now with Tony Kanaan. Looks like he's very happy with his car. Down to pit lane with Doc Punch.
Thank you, Scotty. In the final session this morning, Tony Kanaan said he was very good by himself, but the car would not move very well in traffic. He had trouble even passing some of the slower cars. They went back to the garage area and added significantly more downforce. They moved the car more.
Rookie of the Year points, gentlemen, are certainly going to come into it as we check in down on pit row with Vince Welch.
Todd, the biggest questions for Danica today were pit stops and running in traffic. She's made 3 pit stops, no significant mistakes. Everything has run smoothly. In traffic, her team says they just want to let her develop her own comfort zone, get comfortable. If she wants to get racy, then get racy. But most importantly, they want her to be around for the entire 200 laps and finish the race today.
All right, thank you very much, Vince. As you were speaking, Danica got a little jiggy on the hand movement right there.
I did. Good move by her. You saw Alex Barron just moved up high a little bit. He had to get out of the gas engine.
Let's jump back to Alex Barron. He is in 5th place right now.
Let's ride along here for a second. Listen, go through the gears.
4th, flat out, a little lift. Down 2 gears to 2nd gear into the straight. 2nd. Whoops. Oversteer. 3rd. 4th. 5th. 6th. And at the end of the straight down to 2nd gear. That was a really great. Watch this now. 1, 2, 3, 4 downshifts into 2nd gear. A little bit of power. 3rd gear. A little lift. Back on the gas again.
Well, gentlemen, this gives you a great idea of just how Thomas Scheckter, number 4. We talked about him starting at the very pack because he changed engines after qualifying. But look at the move this guy has put on. Thomas Scheckter has gone from last as he has moved all the way up, and his position now has improved greatly. But right there, Scott, looked like he had a moment. He's currently sitting in 15.
Looked like he was trying to round Briscoe at that moment in time. Ended up just getting a little bit high, had to go down a gear, and now he's trying to dispatch Brian Herta on the left-hand side. Scheckter said today, he says, I have a great car, I want to move forward. His team will work for you. Listen to him now, into the turn, not lifting whatsoever off the gas. Obviously, he has no traffic in front of him. And now just watch how smooth his hands are right here. Goes in the turn, no lift on the throttle, nothing audible whatsoever, a little bit of glare from that sun. RPMs dip down a little bit below that 10,300. Just in the middle of the turn as the car starts to drag down a little bit itself. The line restarts is a different situation, but he was on the gas coming out of turn 4.
Possibly a situation where it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. And Tony Kanaan up to 5th place right now, sitting right behind Thomas Scheckter as we ride on board with number 9 Scott Dixon, currently sitting in 16th place.
Are currently aware of that, and that puts a lot of pressure on them.
Dario Franchitti still trying to work his way up. As we talked about at the top of the show, he had a little incident where he had to be at the back of the pack to start. He moved up quickly, but Franchitti is currently sitting in 13th place, so they are definitely have to make something happen in the pit area or something like that, Scott, to get him up there, because I just don't know. What do you think? Is this track good enough for him, or is he good enough to make passes on this track?
Well, as I'm listening to the throttle right now, he's actually not getting on the throttle maybe as quickly as he did actually in qualifying. Now listen here, you want to be on the throttle now, already picking it up and getting around there. If you're going to make advantage on the car in front, you got to get off the turn quickly. You see how the car in front, Carponche, is just starting to pull him a little bit on throttle application. He's just about found the level of the speed that he can get up through now. And if he wants to get to the front, he's going to have to do it through either pit strategy or make an improvement on the car. It doesn't seem that the car's working as well as it did for him the other day when he was a threat for pole.
With all due respect to the folks at Disneyland, this may be the world's greatest roller coaster ride as we ride on board with Dario Franchitti. Now, he hasn't passed anyone since the restart, and Franchitti remains in 13th place. And he's trying to track down Pat 26.
This is a great start for Danica. The neat thing about this, you can see she's fighting the steering wheel just a little bit. She's always fallen back to 7th or 8th within 2 laps, and right now she's just got to have an opportunity to settle into a pace and watch her hands when she's driving. Are they very smooth, or is she really jittery with the wheel? It'll tell you a little bit about how the car is working.
Danica sitting to a nice rhythm. Dan Wheldon, the 89th running of the greatest spectacle in racing. His teammate Tony Kanaan behind him as we ride on board his other teammate, Dario Franchitti, who sits in 3rd place.
Be interesting for me now, Todd, just watch to see what happens with Brian Herta. He had a car that was dominant when he had clean air or just a few cars in front of him when he had to get through traffic. But now you'll have to find out where his downforce level is, if he's got enough downforce on his car to be able to actually go around cars without...
I mean, what you're seeing there is the leader, Dan Wheldon, in heavy traffic. And a few laps ago, he had a 5-second lead. His lead is down to 1.4 seconds. And he had a few moments very close. And this is a key moment of the race, because if he makes a mistake in traffic, he can lose that lead just like that, or even worse.
An interesting note, though, Dan Wheldon has yet to pit. Also, Brian Herta, Dario Franchitti, Koski Matsura, Darren Manning spread out just a little bit as we go back on board with number 16. This is Danica Patrick, part of the Ray Hall Letterman team. Fastest practice lap, 2:29. Fastest qualifying, 2:27, and fastest on carb day, Scott. She's been running between 2:25 and 2:30 all month.
You know, you stop and you talk to her, Todd. She's got a body basically like a little gymnast. You know, she's 5'1". She's very fit, very strong. And you know something, when you speak to her, you know she is very focused.
And a grip like a vice.
Going past Buckland right now, 44 on the right-hand side she passed. He's been down a lap. She just takes it all in stride, though. A beautiful line coming through forward, left wheels down below the white line, but not but the low line. That's where all the grip is on this concrete racetrack, but they sort of made that a lie going into turn 1 right now. I think they're going, I'm riding with Thomas Scheckter going across the start and finish line into turn 1. driving it down from the top line down to the yellow line on the bottom, a 14-degree banking here on the concrete. And this is an area where when the sun starts to come down going through turns 3 and 4 right now, the sun gets out from those clouds. You can see that shine going on the racetrack right now. There's certainly a possibility that these guys might be blinded for a moment till that sun actually settles, Todd.
That coming in Nashville as we ride on board, and Dario has scored the most points since Indy, 186 to 163 for Hornish and Scheckter as we get our Firestone telemetry with Dario Franchitti. There you see 214, 215 miles an hour. And Scotty, 99% on the throttle. That's fast, but I'm surprised these guys aren't flat out.
Well, that is probably just a throttle sensor. You see it click up to 100% every once in a while. Now, watch this visor cam. I love this. Tells you what the driver's seeing right now out of turn 2, that long straightaway down to turn 3, and then up into that 18-degree banking, not lifting off the throttle at all.
Scott, in the last practice session before this race, the 4-car juggernaut that is Andretti Green Racing had their cars darting and diving about, despite the fact that they were very, very fast.
He is currently sitting in second place.
It's been impressive. He's been able to weave himself through traffic. He gave the car a little bobble there coming off of turn 4. Carries a speed down the front. You know, a very strong race car right now. There again, this fuel strategy is going to be key. He and Franchitti are running on the same strategy. They're going to have to look for a yellow to come in. Otherwise, we hear that they're going to try and maybe do one more pit stop to make it to the...
Dr. Jerry Punch reported that they're telling Dan Wheldon at the 11 and the 4, little dicey on fuel. Don't know if they can make it all the way. And you bring up another good point. If it did go to a yellow, who's stronger than Tony Kanaan on restarts?
Well, you got to look at this. But look at this battle right now with Kotsky Masura having a run right now with Brian Herta. He kept his foot into it, tried him on the outside, went around him on the inside. What a great move.
Brian Herta continues to slide.
Had the Jim Beam head office here in town. Lots of functions going on. Klein Tools is here also.
Firestone telemetry on number 4, Thomas Scheckter, 210 miles an hour at the throttle. No surprise there at 100%. You like where the tire temp is?
Everything's looking great, and you see him doing a lot of shifting, and you hear him doing a lot of shifting simply because he's trying to keep the engine up in the power band. And if you watch his right hand, you'll end up seeing him go down towards the shifter all the time. And what he's doing is trying to keep that engine right between 10,000, 10,300 RPM, at the same time doing all that shifting, trying to contend with Brian Herta, who's on the bottom side of him.
Well, you really get an idea of how the dirty air affects him, because when he gets behind Herta, he's sawing at the wheel.
Little jiggle of the wheel. The wheel starts to go light there. You got a lot of pressure in the steering wheel as you go through the 18-degree banking. Very close with the left front wheel right there to Herta's right rear.
Inside.
Yeah, and then Thomas is going, now I know he's inside, dude. I've been watching him here for a lap. But the steering wheel is very heavy. You get behind a car in front, and that's when the steering wheel gets light, and that's what you understeer.
I've covered sports car racing here about 15, 20 years ago, and it was always hot and oppressively humid. Danica Patrick back there in 12th position. She will be our Rookie of the Year, and we'll be back with the Ray Hall Letterman team again next year. And I got to believe the learning curve that she's had this year. A lot of times over the course of the season, we know that Dan Wheldon's family is watching back in Emberton, England, family and friends. He had a stiff learning curve, very steep, a couple of years ago when he was a rookie. Got upside down at the Indy Motor Speedway in a wreck that he really caught.
I want to come in and have a look at it.
Riding on board with Thomas Scheckter as he gets past Dan Wheldon on the outside, and Jimmy Kite just in front of him, and
rose himself up the racetrack through the D section that in the front oval here. Right now, I heard on the radio that Jimmy Kite was saying, my car is loose. During that break that we had, he came in for a pit stop, and they made some changes on the car for him, probably took out some front wing. But when that race car is loose, Todd, that means the back end wants to swap ends with the front. And that is an ugly thing to drive on the racetrack right now. He's probably just holding on for dear life.
And look at the bottleneck he's created. He's
course and may be a contender by the end of this race. Just watch Brian Herta. Hot off his win at Michigan, he just radioed to his crew that not only does he like his car, he's getting excellent fuel mileage. Talking about compromises again, the way this race is folding out, we could have somebody trying to do it on fuel consumption only. And that guy could very well be the XM satellite radio car.
That's a good pick, Jack. Herta started 11th. He fell to 16th. Now he's back to 11th. And this guy is, I guess, somewhat of a mad scientist, because he's the guy that goes out and tests and does so much for Andretti Green. And I like Jack. I would not count him out. The young man from Valencia, California is looking very strong now, currently running in 11th.
Guy that has a tremendous amount of experience, and that's why Michael
started 6th in the Delphi Fernandez Panos, but he's all the way back to 15th. He's lost 9 spots, but no problems with the car. Talked to a crew member, they said he's just settling in. It's a long race. They just want to get comfortable and go from there. But right now, no problems for Sharp, despite dropping 9 spots.
All right, thank you, Vince. Scott, you saw that as he made that pass on Patrick Carpentier. A very impressive move. He has the strength, no question about it. Scott Sharp, maybe one of the fittest drivers.
Ran so strong off the trailer. Remember, they had that test here just about a week ago, actually on Friday, where they had the opportunity to learn the track with this new equipment. The key thing, I think, for those guys right now, they're going to be hitting traffic very shortly, probably within 10 laps, Todd. Make sure you get through the traffic.
On board with number 4, Thomas Scheckter in the yellow car now. Back on board that. They've lost the platinum paint job. Rumor is that will be coming back. But this car was already
his teammates.
As we look at Brian Herta on the XM Satellite Honda, our winner at the last race in Michigan. We look at our Firestone telemetry. You like that, Scotty? You like seeing 100% throttle, don't you?
Look at that, never lifting off. Probably liking the race car right now. Great speed. Watch the G-forces climb as you start to go through the turns. Remember, not as high bank as some of the tracks we see, but 4.5 Gs, pretty high. And the tire temps right now, remember, right there in the green. Perfect for those Firestone Firehawks.
Well, perfect Toyota lap leaders, and my, how things have changed. Wheldon now is your Toyota lap leader with 105, Scheckter with 49, and that is pretty much a dominating performance by the Honda and the Chevrolet as we check in with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Well, they had just given the call to this man, Thomas Scheckter. They said, go to the whip, full power, buddy, all the fuel you need. We'll pit on lap 190, but go chase him down. Go get that 2.6 car. So Scheckter just turned the dial, full fuel, full wrench, and full power. See if we can catch him here in the final 30 laps.
Scott, as a former driver, you gotta love it. And it's the Firestone Indy Japan 300 as we look at the top 5. Thomas Scheckter holds down the top position, followed by Tony Kanaan, Dan Wheldon, Sam Hornish Jr., and the rookie Danica Patrick, who's been quite possibly the most impressive all day.
Riding along right now with Kotsuki Masura, who actually had to get out of the throttle. Downshift a couple of gears going through turns 3 and 4. Tell you his car is probably not working as strong as he would like it to. Upshifting now going to turn 1. This is the fastest end of the racetrack of this egg-shaped.
Back on board with Thomas Scheckter. There you see the name just above his steering wheel. And they have a little something going over there, Panther Pennzoil. If he wins and that name's on there, that person, it looks like Vicky Peters, gets a trip to the finale out in California in October.
Probably one of the best fan clubs that you can ever have right there. The name's just above the steering wheel. I don't think Thomas is spending too much time looking at it, but great opportunity for the fans out there.
Pace at which they're going.
Here's Danica's radio. We're still seeing 225, 226 laps by all the top drivers. The key thing I took out of Michael...
4 laps till we stop. 56 laps to race. 56 laps to go.
Okay, she's on the radio complaining she needs a change, and that's why he tells her 4 laps left to go. She knows she's going to get an improved car from that point onwards. Go back to Michael Andretti for a second. He's a driver. He knows exactly what it means. Let's see the type of car we have after the last pit stop.
Todd. 1 car pit out.
Always likes the outside. The outside is his preferred place. Here he goes. He's got to run.
On board with Thomas Scheckter getting that rear view, and it's amazing how close Sam is riding to the back right rear tire of Dario Franchitti.
No room for error there, I can tell you that.
You know, the temperatures are quite cool here. They're in the 60s. Last year, we had record heat. It was 91 degrees in Phoenix. Set a record. A different racetrack today than what the guys were used to a year ago. Right now, though, Jill, we always talk about, as we saw Sam Hornish trying to get around the outside.
Second time this year.
Good to see Danica okay as we are back to green flag racing. Dan Wheldon leads as we are on board with Dario Franchitti here at the AJ Foyt 225, the Milwaukee Mile. Todd Harris, Scott Goodyear, Dr. Jerry Punch, Vince Welch, and of course Jamie Little down there who just spoke with Danica Patrick. There's Dario currently running 4th. He started 8th and his last lap's got a 1:53, and at this point in the race, where do you think the pit strategy is going to come into play?
Well, if there's some yellows from this point forward, maybe these people might be able to get through on this tank that they have, Todd. That's a long shot right now, but as a driver, if you have a yellow, I think I'd like to come in, maybe put a bit of fuel in just to be sure. But the other side of that is putting on new tires can always help, especially when you're going to have a sprint towards the end. You mentioned the speed. These guys have actually, after that last pit stop, been running as high as 155 miles an hour, so the pace is increasing.
There's the Firestone telemetry. the speeds going up to nearly 170, hitting 170, and then dropping way back down. He cracks the throttle once again, but right back at 100%.
Watch the G-forces build here as he starts to turn into the turn. He took that away from you, so you won't see that, but getting up to around 3.5 to 4 Gs in the turns.